Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is widia ningsih. My student number is 33. In this meeting, we will explain about the notion of conversational implicature. Implicature is a concept of utterance meaning as opposed to sentence meaning, and the action of implying a meaning beyond literal sense of what is explicitly stated. Implicature is related to the method by which speakers work out the indirect allocations of utterances. If, when a proposition A is true, a proposition B must be therefore also true. Then proposition A entails proposition B. Example, some dogs are mammals, and the speaker complains implicature that not all dogs are mammals. Implicature which we are about to discuss is another kind of inference, distinct from entailment. And then there is an inference is any conclusion that one is reasonably entitled to draw from a sentence or utterance. The point that we can point out here is all entailments are inferences, but not all inferences are entailments. And there's a practice that we can give to this explanation. Imagine that there are 6 students who might or might not have to go to the party. We are concerned with a little word containing 6 students. And then the question is, number 1, does the expression sum of the student specify any particular number? Example, 4, 5, or 6. And the answer is no, because the word sum cannot specify a particular number. And question number 2, does some of the students came to the party entail not all of the students came to the party? And the answer is no, because there is still some of students that came to the party. Then how a hearer can make reasonable inferences from an utterance when the actual sentence uttered doesn't in fact entail some of inferences we make? It can be helped with the cooperative principle. It can be stated simply as be as helpful to your hearer. Be as helpful to hearer as you can. And we can give an example. There is a dialogue. Policeman, is your father or mother at home? And the boy, who knows that his father at home, but he replied by, either my mother's gone out shopping or she hasn't. This is unhelpful. The boy doesn't give any useful information to the policeman. And next, number 2, traffic warden. Is this your car, sir? And the motorist, while looking at the black clouds, answer, I think it's going to rain. And his answer is misleading because he is giving an answer but doesn't relate it to the question. Being cooperative in conversation obviously involves more than simply telling the truth. Although truthfully is part of cooperativeness, we can separate out the components of conversational cooperativeness. The first one is relevance. It is to keep the topic of the conversation. The second one is informativeness, to tell the hearer just what he needs to know, no more and no less. And the third one is clarity. It is to speak in a way that the hearer can be understand. And there's principles called maxims, and we shall refer them to the maxim relativeness, maxim informativeness, and maxim clarity. There are 3 examples from each maxim. The first one is example use the maxim of relevance. The question, do any of John's daughters speak a foreign language? And the reply said, Mary speaks French. It would be reasonable to conclude that Mary is John's daughter because the reply gives information that related and relevant to the question. Next is example of maxim informativeness. There is, consider the situation in which a speaker knows all the informations that all the students came to the party. And then look at the example. Number 1, the utterance some of the students came is true in this implicature because the sum it is include all of the student. And then number 2, some of the student camp cannot be as informative as it could be because all the students came to the party, so it cannot be informative. And the next is maximum clarity. Look at this dialogue. Wayne, you and Jim really must come round to my place some evening. And Sue answered, yes, we would like to. Wayne, of course, you two don't drink, do you? And Sue replied, well, we don't not drink. And if Sue had meant to convey to Wayne just the simple proposition that she and Jim drink, the reply, we don't not drink, actually they are drink. Sue's giving double negative here so that it has the meaning of positive. This unit has outlined the notion of conversational implicature, a form of reasonable inference. Implicature, a notion of utterance meaning, contrasts with entailments, a notion of sentence meaning. Implicature exists by a reason of general social conversation, the shape of which is the principle of cooperativeness between speakers.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone, I'm Ratih, Aulia, sari, and my student number is 47. So I would like to continue the materials and I'm going to talk about metaphor. So as you can see on the screen, metaphor is the first one, a figure of speech. So a metaphor is a figure of speech that describes an object or action, but it is not literally true, but it helps to explain an idea or to make a comparison. And there are some basics of metaphor. The first one is it states one thing is another thing, and the second one it equates those two things, but they are not actually the same, but for the comparison or to make a symbolism. And the third, if you take metaphor literally, it will sound strange. For example, the sentence is you are my sunshine. So if we take it literally, it will sound strange. And the second one, my brother is the black sheep of the family. So he is not a sheep, but a black sheep is an unusual animal which typically stays away from the herd. So the people being described, the person being described has similar characteristics. And the next one is metaphor is used in poetry, literature, and words in life, such as in speaking and writing. Most of us think that metaphor is used in poem only or literature only, but in fact we sometimes use we sometimes talk using metaphors. So for example, after getting the difficult text, the difficult exam, we can say like the test was murder. So it is not literally that the test do a murder to us, but because the text is difficult. And the next is the example of metaphor. The first one in daily life, and you can see the first example in daily life is he broke my heart. So your heart isn't literally broken, but you're feeling sad and hurt. And the second one is his words cut deeper than a knife. So for this example, the words don't materialize into sharp objects, but what someone has said, but someone has said something hurtful to another. And the second example of metaphor is in the poem Hope is the Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. So you can see on the screen, hope is the thing with feathers. So in this poem, Emily Dickinson uses a metaphor to compare a hawk to a bird. She personifies a hawk as having feathers and passing in the soul. Most of people think that hope lifts us up and bringing a feeling of freedom. And the next is about the subtypes of metaphor. The first one is an orientational metaphor. It is a metaphor that involves spatial relationships such as up-down, in-out, on-off, front-back. And the example, as you can see on the screen, is she is at the peak of health, so health is up. And the other examples for the happy as up metaphor, such as I'm feeling up, that boosted my spirits, and thinking of her always gives me a lift. And for happy as down metaphor, such as the first one, I'm feeling down, and the second one is I fell into a depression. The next subtype of metaphor is an ontological metaphor. So it is a metaphor in which something abstract such as activity, emotion, or idea is represented as something concrete such as object, substance, container, and a person. For example, for the container example, I put a lot of energy into washing the windows, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of washing windows. So as you can see on the screen, there are three kinds of an ontological metaphor: container metaphor, entity metaphor, and substance metaphor. So container metaphor is an ontological metaphor in which in which some concept is represented as having inside and outside and capable of holding something else. The two examples that I have mentioned before are the examples of the activity as container metaphor, and the next example is outside of washing the windows. What else did you do? The metaphor is in outside. For entity metaphor, it is an ontological metaphor in which an abstraction is represented as a concrete psychical object. For example, my mind just isn't operating today. And personification is a kind of entity. Personification is the kind of entity metaphor that will be delivered by my friends later after me. The next is substance metaphor. So it is an ontological metaphor in which an abstraction such as an event, activity, emotion, or idea is represented as material. For example, there was a lot of good sprinting in the race. And the next example is I couldn't do much sprinting until the end. And the last subtype of metaphor is a structural metaphor. It is a metaphorical system in which a complex concept, typically abstract, is presented in terms of some other, usually more concrete concept. Complicated and abstract experiences are conceptualized based on the experience of simple and specific experiences. For example, as you can see on the screen, argument is war. This is a structural metaphor, and the argument the example is argument is war, since the statement to support argument is war are: the first one, her point of view is indefensible. The second, they attack everything we said. The next, I finally won or lost the argument. Next, we demolished the argument. Next, my strategy against the argument was weak. And next, our criticism of his claim was right on target. So argument is shown by how the argument and how people do argument, like do since there are words like against and indefensible. The next example is time is money. Like we are familiar with time is money. Like the sentence, the example or the statement that can support this is don't waste your time. You still have you still have other excitements to do. So I think that's all from me, and the next material will be delivered by my friend. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aulia Azzahra and my student number is 48. In here, I will explain about personification and metonymy. So, personification is particular subtype of ontological metaphor that has explained before by my friend, which is an abstract entity is construct as though it were a physical object, which is then further specified as being a person. And I put two examples. The first one is his religion tells him cannot drink wine. So in here the religion acts as human that tells him cannot drink wine. And then the second one is the stars wink to each other in the dark. As we know, the star is non-human entities, but in here the star act as a person, as a human that wink to each other. But in fact, the stars are just blinking because it's so far away from the earth. And so conceptualizing entities to human terms by means of personification to make them more accessible to understand. And then the second one is a metonymy. Metonymy is kind of non-literal language in which one entity is used to refer to another entity that is associated with it in some way. Or in other words, we can say that a metonymy concept allows us to conceptualize one thing by means of its relation to something else. So there are two examples. The first one is England decides to keep check on immigration. So the England refers to the government of England. So it means like the government of England decide to keep check on immigration. And then the second one is let me give you a hand. A hand in here doesn't mean a part of human body, but it's mean like a help. So the sentence let me give you a hand means like kind of offering a help to other people. So that's all about my material. Thank you for watching our video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.